last week or so, Facebook has been under tremendous attack in the UK for reasons where Facebook is being used by sexual offenders. And there is some talk of policing of Facebook and control of Facebook. What are your views on that?
So privacy has been at the core of what Facebook has been about from the very beginning. And in reading about some of the things that have happened recently in the UK and elsewhere, I think my own personal condolences go out to the young woman's family and everyone who's been through that experience. But the thing that is really unique about what Facebook does is give complete control over users, over their information. And just as in everyday life, we have to be smart about who we talk to, what we talk about, and to not necessarily assume that a stranger who approaches us and friendly is exactly what they seem. So too do we need to do the same thing on the web. I think that the more that we can teach ourselves, but more importantly, our kids who are on Facebook and all across the web, to be careful and to be intentional about the information that they share, the stronger we'll be as a society. I think that there's no way to get around this issue. No matter what, we're going to be able to text random people on our cell phones. We're going to be able to connect to people that we don't know on the web. And the challenge is just to be thoughtful about how we do it and to make sure that we connect to individuals that we know. In particular on Facebook, what I always recommend is only accept people to be your friends who are your friends. You know, it sounds like the easiest thing in the world, but I think it's something that people feel a little weird about. They feel like they shouldn't ignore a request from someone that they don't know. It's a friend request. If you don't know the person, you don't necessarily need to be friends with them, and that's what I personally do, and that's what I recommend to people across the board. But at the end of the day, you have to be smart about how you use the network, and you have to be intentional.
Chris, you have 1,000 friends on your Facebook.
I do. I do. I have.
You said the average is 130.
The average is 130. I've been on Facebook for 6 years, and I meet a lot of people. So I do.
At your age, I presume you're very, very young. How do you deal with the tremendous success and fortune that you obviously have amassed at such an early age?
Yeah, I mean, I think you keep everything in perspective. I think that, day by day, you'd think that your life would change a lot, but it actually doesn't. I still have the same friends and do the same things. I've been very fortunate to have been part of, Facebook and the Obama campaign, and to have really been able to leverage a lot of the technologies that exist I believe to on the whole better the world. And day by day, you are just who you are, and you try to do your best. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's immense opportunity. I think that just because the web has evolved in the way that it has, I think more and more people realize that there's a true paradigm shift happening. And so the extent to which I can, contribute my own skills and my own background and work to the causes and that are important to me, and the people that I think genuinely are interested in embracing the technology, the better. I'm very fortunate to be able to be able to help.
6 years of Facebook, a very simple question. What do we expect in the next level? Are you planning, changing? I mean, something has to give. What do we expect in the next decade?
I wish we knew, is the short answer to the question. I mean, I think the web changes so quickly, and it's such a dynamic place that we have to be constantly open to change. So when it comes to Facebook in particular, there are a couple key trends that I think will continue to exist. I think that for the past 6 years, most of the time when people have engaged on Facebook, they've typed in facebook.com into the URL bar of their web browser, and that's the way they've engaged. But we're seeing this shift now where I think in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, most people will engage with Facebook, but will never come to facebook.com or won't need to come to facebook.com with the same regularity that they do today. That means that I envision a web where Facebook is distributed across it. So particularly with Facebook Connect, for those of you who don't know, I mentioned it in my talk in terms of the Economic Times, but it enables any website on the web to put in a little bit of code and enable individuals to be able to interact with their Facebook friends, all of that content, all of those people inside their own domain. So the Economic Times' website, for instance. That's a revolution, I think, on the web, which will only continue to increasingly organize the content that exists in a social fashion. So that's one big thing. The other big thing is the mobile technology. I mean, I'm in a country where I think it's 400 million people, probably more than that now, are connected to one another through their phones, but only 50 million or so are actually connected to the web on a day-to-day basis. That, if anything, is a testament to the future of Facebook, which is accessed on the go from a whole host of entry points, including mobile phones. But that will radically change the way that people exist on the site. On the site itself, I think that we'll see, to sum up, we'll see the site itself become increasingly simple, I hope. I think that the experience on Facebook over time, because there's so many interesting things to do, has become, for a time, increasingly complex. But with this most recent redesign and for some of the stuff that's planned in the future, simplicity will be the key. So those are three key things that I think will change over the next 10 years, 5 years.
Just go back to your first point? This is one of the things that I think Google is most scared about, that people are going to stay within Facebook and do their searches and find all their recommendations from their own network and from their Facebook friends. Is this something that you're working towards, or is this something that's going to happen?
Well, I think that there's a couple different ways that information can and already is organized on the web. I mean, Google, talk about a revolution, really, built search technology to make it so that individuals could find exactly what they were looking for in, seconds, which was a true revolution. But Google, in that sense, is its own filter of the web. It's what a team of genius engineers build every day to make sure that it's actually useful for us to be able to find the information we're most interested in. I think the filter at Facebook is a little bit different. It too is a filter for information in a similar sense that Google is, except that it's what your friends, your colleagues, your family members are interested in at any given point in time. So it doesn't require you to say, okay, I want to find out about what are sporting events coming up in Delhi this weekend. Instead, you might find a sporting event that's going that one of your friends is attending through the Facebook feed. So I think these things are really important, and the world needs both. We need a place where we can find an answer to a very specific question like Google, but we also need other filters that can help us make sure we can get to the most interesting information as efficiently as possible.
Given the popularity of Facebook and Twitter and things like this, do you envisage a day in the near future when part of your corporate social responsibility would be to hold de-addiction kind of programs so that people can get
De-addiction, is that what you said?
This is a good problem.
This is a good problem to have. It's funny because I think that the language of addiction is always so interesting to me when it comes to something like Facebook, because addiction is something that you always want and that you really need. But to me, we need social interaction. We're social individuals, and we crave that. And in fact, we need that in order to exist as a society. So I think that people can use Facebook more responsibly than others, and I think that there's all sorts of uses for it. But I mean, for one, I keep Facebook open all day long in a tab in my browser. I have my email open in one tab, I have Facebook open in one tab, and I have my calendar open in one tab. And in that sense, it's a way. I don't at all think of it as an addiction to Facebook. I think that it's a way that, just as I use email to find out what what my colleagues and friends are saying or want or need to say to me. It's a way for me to find what they're saying to one another and to me directly. So to the extent that social interaction is an addiction, I think that we all need to be more thoughtful about how we interact with each other.
I have a two-part question, which is something about how it's with reference to how companies like Facebook survive. That's money. One is, it seems that social media advertising has become all about numbers. Where the pay-per-click model, pay-per impression, etc. While therefore it lacks traditional qualitative engagement, which leads to either sales conversion or brand growth. So how will this bubble survive if in terms of ROI for advertisers? And my second part is, so then the fundamental question arises about how sustainably profitable are social media enterprises in terms of, because it's a business, right? It's not a public utility service and you have investors. So that's my question.
Absolutely. So when it comes to advertising, advertising is the revenue source on Facebook. And there's several different types of ads. There's some of the more traditional ones that you would expect, the things that sit on the side of the page, which are targeted to certain people, dependent on what the advertiser is interested in or advertising. But I think that the future of advertising on a place like Facebook is much more in and around what we call social engagement ads. So in other words, a company can come in and sort of seed a piece of content on Facebook, which then opens up the possibility for people to interact with it. To click that little like button, to say, oh, I think this is interesting, to comment on it, to send it to a friend, maybe to post it on their profile. There's all sorts of ways that people can interact with that content. And what is really interesting and I think promising to me is this vision of the world where advertising stops being about pushing things on people, but instead becomes about offering something up and then enabling the people that are interested in it to say, oh, this is cool, I want to tell my friends. So the old paradigm would be to show a sexy model with a car and say, you should go and buy this. And the new model would be to have someone say, oh, I just bought this car and it's amazing. This in particular, I really like about it. Or here's a photo of me in my new car and it's great. So Facebook is I think just beginning, honestly, to experiment with all of these different advertising opportunities. So we'll see where it goes.